Hey again to all my listeners tuning in. Welcome back to Fractured Poet, a podcast for all of you poetically insane individuals who love getting lost in the art of poetry. Podcasting from Ontario, California, I am your host, Katrina Wisniewski, just another person in the world obsessed with words, striving to make sense of it all. So, this episode is an impromptu episode. I do not have a script written out, so like the first one I did, this is completely free-handed. I have no idea what I'm going to say, but what I do know is that this episode is pretty much titled A Moment of Self-Reflection. I was going through some stuff, and some of these things that I might be reciting or reading may not be poetry, but it could be. So some of these, if not all of them, well, minus maybe one, might relate to me in some way. And those of you who know me inside and out, you may very well be able to read between the lines. Those of you that don't know me, well, I can't really answer that. But I guess the first thing I will read, it's like I said, I don't really know if it would be considered a poem. It could be. I didn't attempt to write it as a poem. Um, those of you, I mean, you can interpret it however you want to interpret it, but these first three entries that I am going to read came from an online blogging journal, I guess you can call it, that I had years ago and was discontinued, taken off, whatever you want to call it, and I saved the entries. So I guess I will read it. I'm really not sure if I'm comfortable reading it, but I guess it kind of gives you a little background about me, I guess you can say. This, I don't, whatever. I'll just read it and see where it goes. This one is called Reflected Thoughts. I worry about the future, the choices I have made, the decisions that bombard my everyday routine, wondering if they will shape the following days. I think about the reasons why. Why am I presented with the choices I eventually have to make? Why do I carry an attitude that affects the ones around me? I hold these questions in my head, in my thoughts, and afraid of what might become of them. My reflection is merely a side of me that I hope to become innocent but rebellious, calm and collective, or even perfect in every way. Overthinking is something I tend to do often, worrying about the possible outcomes, the consequences I will be faced with, and the demands that will be required of me. Life is something I hope to understand. Its confusing ways of reminding me how fragile it can be, boasting on the things I cannot accomplish, too discouraging. I try to wrap my hands around it, trying to catch my balance, but end up falling face down. To comprehend this life, I cannot bear the thought of even knowing. I share my passion amongst others, hoping that one day they too will understand my position. Okay, so this entry, again, I read it like a poem, but like I said, I don't know if it is a poem, it could be. But I wrote this back in July of 2012, a long time ago. Um, I guess in a way, this everything I mentioned still kind of applies to my life. Life has been a massive pain in the ass roller coaster, and I'm still trying to figure shit out. I feel like I'm still in the same position. Just I'm all over the damn place. But I'm not gonna get too much into it because this isn't like some I don't know. I don't want my podcast to be like some self online therapy session thing so all of you can hear my shit. But yeah, that's basically I this entire thing is basically self-explanatory. So that's pretty much where I have been and have felt for a very long time, obviously. And yeah, I don't really want to elaborate too much on that, but that's, like I said, pretty self-explanatory. So I don't really have to go too much into detail because that's what it is. So I will move on to the next one. And this one is called Sticks and Stones. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. A quote I'm sure many can recall hearing at least once during their lifetime. Words can impact someone's life in ways they never dreamed of, causing much pain. Growing up, I knew a girl who dealt with people making obscene comments regarding her facial features. What's unfortunate is the name calling never stopped. We talked on numerous occasions, and she is far from happy with her appearance. She looks in the mirror every day, wishing things could be different, wanting change, to be accepted by society. Yearning for change, she decided to research on cosmetic surgery. She told me there were many things to consider concerning this particular procedure, but she was determined. Going to 4 consultations gave her a bigger perspective of what cosmetic surgery consisted of: multiple blood tests prior to the surgery, preparation before and after, mentally and physically, getting the appropriate items during recovery, and being cautious of her every move. The only problem with pursuing this goal was how much it was going to cost and the lack of money she had to even want to attempt it. Hearing stories like this breaks my heart. No one in society should ever be ashamed of his or her appearance. The media portrays an image of the perfect man or the perfect woman, yet what people fail to realize is there is no such thing as a perfect man or woman. People place judgment based on someone's looks or appearance, height or weight, gender. None of that should matter. Not everyone will be as attractive as one person or slimmer than the other. We are who we are, unique. So, that one, again, you can call it a poem, call it a journal entry, and I'm sorry with the clicks. Like I said, this was not prepared, this is not written out. So I'm kind of clicking as I'm going. But I guess you can say, I don't know if I should say it relates to me, but I guess I just did. Um Again, I won't get too much into it and I won't give too much detail. Those of you that are listening that know me obviously know the story and the shit that I struggle with. So for the listeners out there that don't know me, yeah, basically it's defining me. Again, I won't get into too much detail, but it fucked up my life, since I was younger and even till current, and I'm 30 fucking something years old and it still happens. Um it ruined my life a lot of ways. It shot my self-confidence to hell. Um I am sometimes ashamed to be going out in public because the way that people look at me sometimes. And I guess with the masks, I kind of feel, the masks we have to wear in, COVID era, it I hate wearing them, but at the same time, I feel like no one's going to judge me. No one's going to judge me how I look. No one's, that's not going to be the first thing that, people see, so I kind of feel like the mask in a way are a safe haven for me. But yeah, that was written in August, I believe the same year, 2012. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I, I went through a lot of stuff when I was growing up, and I guess you can call it torture, verbal, mental torture. Not so much physically. I never really got physically bullied, but verbal is enough, I guess. And what it does to the mind, and what people tell you you look like, and how, a certain way that you are, people calling you ugly, or, sticks and stones may break your bones, but names will never hurt you, is a total sham, is a fucking lie, because they do hurt. And those words have stuck with me. It's the first thing that I see when I look in the mirror, and I am, ashamed of it. So I'm assuming at that point in time, I experienced something and I wrote about it and I wrote on it and I shared it with an online journaling, blogging thing, whatever they called it back then. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So, this next one I am going to read is called Thoughts, and it's kind of sort of short. So, here it is. Much has happened in the past year, things I would rather not speak of. However, those things have helped me reflect on the life I am leading. Sometimes I find myself sitting alone, drowning in my thoughts, pondering about which direction to go in. I feel as though I have not reached my life's goal. No job, although I have a career in mind. I feel so many versions of nothing, and at the same time being stuck. Obstacles and barriers constantly surround me, leaving me with no room to breathe, diminishing every inch of motivation. I have lost many things within the last 2 years, from friends to pieces of my life. It has me lost for words. I have lost the person I once was, forgetting what it is like to live. I yearn for guidance, yet at the same time, I am not sure which direction to go in. So this one was written January 13th of 2013. It kind of goes with the first one that I read or recited, kind of along the same lines, maybe not the same, but yeah, as you can kind of tell within, my poems and, these things that I have been reading, a lot of them talk about the same thing. And, I've, my life is just one big ass glob of stuck. Again, I'm not gonna elaborate, but there have just been a lot of moments in my life, very often moments in my life, where I'm questioning a lot of things. I'm questioning myself, I'm questioning my direction in life, I'm questioning life in general. I'm questioning everything. I'm doubting everything. I'm doubting myself. I'm just I'm a big fucking hot mess, as people like to refer to themselves sometimes. But again, I won't elaborate too much into this. And this time I'll actually read a poem. And I don't have a title for this one, so here it goes. As a girl, she was forced to develop a tough skin, having one hell of an attitude, not one plastic chair left unturned. As this girl became a teenager, life got harder, wanting to quit, throw in the towel, and crawl under a rock. Her flaws defined her, a flaw that made her feel ashamed and not worthy. She remembered what it was like as a girl. Things were so much more simpler, until now. So this one was written back in March, the beginning of March of 2017. Again, this kind of reflects on everything I just read. And again, it goes with you can say this poem is about me. Just going from when I was little to current times. When we're younger, things seem so much simpler. And after reading this poem, the end of it, I don't know why I even wrote that, Because even as a young girl, even when I was younger, once certain things started happening to me, you can throw in bullying. Things weren't simple. Things were really hard for me when the bullying kicked in because it was constant. It was coming from all directions, from anyone that actually, loved to point things out. And it was really hard. And once I got into high school, I don't know if you want to say intensified because it's always been intensified. But once I got in high school, I actually wanted to drop out. I don't remember it was my junior or senior year. It might have been my senior year. I wanted to drop out of high school. I didn't want to be in a public school. I didn't want to be surrounded by anybody. I was on the edge of quitting school because of how bad the bullying was. And I had to talk to my counselor, my school counselor, and she kind of did wonders, even though in some ways it really didn't help because the people that were starting it, which people I don't even fucking know, never knew, never talked to, never associated with, were, saying certain things to me. And I had to run into these people in one point in time throughout the school year, sometimes repeatedly. And, my counselor had to rearrange my schedule. And it was just, I guess this poem is a very short reflection, which is why the episode is called A Moment of Self-Reflection, because I guess this episode is giving me a chance or allowing me, forcing me, however you want to put it, to bring together all of the poems, or if you want to call the first 3 journal entries together, to kind of put my life in perspective and to really see, how damaged I am, I guess you can say. I don't know if you want to call it that, but that's what this poem is. So I honestly don't know what I was thinking about, obviously this stuff, but I don't know if something happened and this is what triggered me to write this poem, or it just kind of came out in a self-reflection moment. But I will get on to the next one. I have 2 more left. So, um, this one does not have a title. So, here it goes. To take another shot and erase what's left is a question often delayed. Who cares about the answers? What has anyone ever learned from the truth, anyways? Liquid courage, some call it. But once the glass is empty, who can tell the difference? I come from a long line of alcoholics. To think I would have taken notes, or maybe even stayed away completely. But it's strange to do such reflecting and realize you're only going down the same rabbit hole. Okay, so this one was written on May 20th of 2021. To be honest, I have no idea where the hell this poem came from. To put it out there, I am not an alcoholic, so this is not about me in any way. But I don't even know what possessed me to write a poem like this. This is basically talking about someone that's an alcoholic and is trying to justify it, I guess you can say. But this is not about me. After I was done writing this, I reread it and I looked at it, I'm like, where the fuck did this come from? Because I have no idea where it came from. I mean, I know of people in my life, in my family, that are a little too much on the drinker side, and I have had, certain people that are alcoholics and that really fucked up their lives because of being one. Some people I've never met that are my family that I have been told were alcoholics. So the whole I come from a long line of alcoholics, I guess you can say, is relevant and true to my life, relevant to my life, but this is not talking about me. Like I said, I'm completely thrown by this poem because I don't know where it came from. I don't know what triggered it. I wasn't watching anything that had anything to do with, someone that was an alcoholic. I wasn't thinking about anything, and this is what came out. It was, like I've said in previous episodes, I can come up with one phrase and think that it'll go this direction, but once I start writing, it'll go a complete different direction. And once it's done, I'm like, wow, that's not what I thought it was going to be. So that's pretty much what this one is. There's no relevance to me. I do not relate to it in any way. So, yeah. And so on to the last poem of the episode. This one's a very short one, and it does not have a title. There's not much left of me as the clock strikes 12, but the minutes that remain still won't get the best of me. So this poem was written on May 20th of 2021. Another poem that started with one phrase, one sentence, and it came out to this. I don't know what this poem is referring to. It could refer to me if I really dissect the words and really read between the lines. This was just something random that popped out. And those of you that I'm friends with on Facebook, I actually posted these two poems. So you might recognize it if you paid attention and read it. I have shared this. So this is, the first time that I'm putting it on the podcast. So if it sounds familiar to those of you that I'm friends with, then, this is it and you saw it first. But I guess that will conclude this episode. Like I said, this one is totally impromptu. It was not planned out at all. Like I said, I just kind of threw together a few poems. It took me a while to figure out the right poems to read, but I did not come up with a script. So that concludes the episode. To those of you who are always tuning in, thank you so much for listening. And the loyal listeners that are listening to every single episode, again, I love you. Thank you guys so much. I really hope that you guys enjoy what you heard. And to those of you that are just joining in, rewind all the way to the beginning if you haven't done so already and go back to the beginning. There are some things that I refer to in my episodes where you may not get what I'm saying. Like there's a book that I'm always referring to that you'll understand where I get some of my poem ideas. Or you kind of just get to know me a little bit from the start and where I started with poetry. Again, I'm not going to get into all that shit because it's in the beginning. So go back, listen to the first episode, and catch up. It'll be there when you are done. So you can catch this episode and future episodes at anchor.fm/fractured poet. I also have an Instagram account at Fractured Poet. And I also, if you want to follow my personal Instagram page, look up Fractured Goddess. So this episode of Fractured Poet was written and produced by me, Katrina Wisniewski. Music by Rock Alternative or Alternative Rock Volume 1 and Rock Electronica Volume 4 from freeplaymusic.com. Like I said, you can also follow me on Instagram at Fractured Poet. And as always, thanks for listening, guys, and until next time.